Okay, welcome. Welcome to the Purposeful Business live stream with me, Lucille Divine. And if you haven't joined me before and are an SME or an entrepreneur who is looking to be inspired, be empowered, or just to gain knowledge, then you've come to the right place. I feature successful entrepreneurs who are living their purpose and building their dream businesses. In the live stream, you get to hear from these amazing entrepreneurs on how they took their idea and created a business model around it. You'll be inspired by their stories, which hopefully will empower you to take action in your own business. Today, we're going to be featuring none other than Brett Field and Bronwyn Marcus. In tonight's live stream, I'll be talking to these two influencers who will be sharing their unique insights around the rise of the new media influencer. I'd like to welcome Brett Field, who is a business influencer in his own right. He's passionate about being a role model and supporting and inspiring entrepreneurs, as well as disrupting the marketing industry. My next guest is Bronwyn Marcus. She is a journalist and a blogging influencer who enjoys sharing her passion of food and entertainment with her followers in and around the Durban area. Welcome, guys. Let's pull you into this live stream.
Hi, Lucille. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the live stream. You know, we're living in exciting times, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk a little bit about influencer marketing, especially in today's day and age, is because I strongly believe that a lot of people don't really understand what influencer marketing is or how to even use it as a marketing tactic. So welcome to you both. I'd like to pose the first question, and as we go through, please, if you are part of the audience, feel free to comment below and ask any question. Anything that you do ask, I'll put up on the screen, and I'll ask my guests to please answer those questions as well. But let's head on straight into this. And I'd like to pose this question to you right now. Brett, what do you believe is an influencer? What is this?
Well, I think at its most fundamental level, an influencer is anybody who has an audience who trusts them on any topic. And because of that underlying trust, they will have an influence over a particular subject with that audience. And I think the easiest example would be your parents. You know, anybody who has ever looked up to their parents for guidance, that's at its fundamental level, that's what an influencer is. Obviously, here we're going to steer into the influencer in the digital and social media arenas. And that's very different, but it's still got the fundamental underlying trust that allows somebody to build this trust over time with an audience, and then they will influence their decisions and their buyer behavior, or the way that they think, the way that they do things, the way that they live their lives, their consumer behavior, all different aspects of life can be influenced.
Yes, I strongly believe that. And you picked up on one fundamental key that I think a lot of people miss when they look at an influencer is that word trust. It is that trust relationship that often will stimulate and actually pivot an influencer into that mark. Bronwyn, let me pose that question back to you. What do you believe an influencer is, in your own opinion?
Okay, well, to be honest, I've been in this industry for a while, but I've only really learned the jargon recently. So only the last 4 months, I've realized that I am an influencer. I didn't realize that I was that, to be honest. So this is all very new to me, this whole world. But to me, it's exactly what Brett said, but it's also it's having an impact between you're a mediator between a brand maybe and then the consumer. So it's what Brett said, that's the foundation, but then it's actually going further, and you the mediator between brand and the viewer or the audience, or that's so you've got a very important role to play. Yeah, as an influencer.
I think that's also important because you brought in another element here. It's almost a bridge between the two. So you kind of placed in the center where you're talking to community, but you're also talking to brand and bringing those two together. Is that what you're trying to say there, Bronwyn?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And not just brands. I mean, it can be anything. It can be NGOs or businesses, which I mean, that is brands, but it can be churches. I mean, it's just getting a message out there to a wider audience, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Brett, what are your feelings around that? I mean, especially when it comes to influencer marketing, is it based in behind a brand or a product? Do you see it as a community? How do you see this being positioned exactly?
Well, I think it's evolving, and it's something that the world is starting to come to grips with. But I very much see influencers being the curators of their community, and their community might be a demographic, it might be around a psychographic, it might be around a particular product or lifestyle choice or whatever their niche, no matter how narrow or wide it is. They are the curators of information, and that is typically coming from brands or the media in general. And then they mediate that down and they curate it for their audience who trusts them that the information that they put down there is what they're looking for and in line with their community values and what they they no longer have to go and try and navigate the interweb on a particular topic, because this influencer has this passion for this and they've built that trust with that audience. So they trust them that what they are saying has the right research and backing, so that, yeah.
That's perfect, because it brings me to my next question. And this is a question that I often get posed, especially when we are talking marketing strategy. And I'd like to hear from both of you when it comes to this, is how would you identify the right kind of influencer for the right campaign? Brett?
Yeah. So it depends largely if it's an agency or the brand directly. Because they'll have slightly different strategies. What I would do if I was the strategist is I would identify who my bullseye influencer is, who is exactly on target, exactly talking the language, the values, everything about the brand. And then I would then widen that and get other influencers where that sort of starts to dilute, and then take that and I would then invite them in. I'd pay them as junior strategists in a campaign right up front, paid before we've even chosen the direction or exactly bedded down the campaign, and understand from each of them individually how their audience works, how they think, what they want, how they process information, what types of media works best with them. And if you do that, you'll start to work out which of those is the right. You might start off with this bullseye and actually understand that on your periphery over here is where your campaign is going to sit best for that specific objective.
And that's beautiful. I love the way that you've actually kind of simplified something that is so complex, because this is a lot of agency as well as independent marketeers. They battle with the strategy part and putting this all together. You're saying actually that we should put the influencer right in the beginning of not only the planning side, but in the research side. Bronwyn, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think also we have to break it down to the different types of influencers, because a lot of influence their celebrities, but I must be a little nano, so it's about so you get nano influencers or macro, or your celebrities. And I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I'm still learning all of this. But so I think it's important to it's just important to know what kind of audience you want. So sometimes it's better to work with the nano influencers because they have a higher engagement rate with their following, and they built a trust with their following. But I mean, you can have that for across the board, but you just got to watch that. So it's am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you also agreeing with what Brett has to say, especially when it comes to organizing it is part of that research team, almost, if I could say that, where you are setting the pace and into the planning and the strategy going forward. And although you've only realized now that you're an influencer, it means that you have built that trust yourself, Bronwyn. And you're also finding this frustration where people are approaching you for a different campaign that doesn't even fit in with your values or what you actually blog about. So that is one of the aspects that I think that a lot of marketeers, as well as agency and anyone that's in the promotionals arena, needs to realize, is that putting influencers in the research side and putting them in the start off before you even planning the campaign is so vital in delivering a good high-end campaign at the end of the day. Britt, do you want to add anything else to it? Because this is quite an important part of the strategy and planning.
So I think Bronwyn's hit on a really critical point, and that is that there's a wide range of different types of influencers, and I think incorrectly what a lot of people do is they make it hierarchical, and they think that one is worth more than the other. 5 nanos equals a micro, and it really comes down to the type of campaign that you're gonna run. And it might be that different levels or different parts of the campaign are better suited to different types of influencers. And I think what's becoming very interesting in this space at the moment is particularly the nano influencers. And we've seen the likes of Continuum, the platform that's coming out that's allowing brands to understand their audience in terms of what their influence is of people that are not knowing or calling themselves influence, and they might have 10, 15, 20 followers, but if they say something, people take action, and that's influence, as opposed to somebody who might have 10,000, but if they say something, nobody takes action. And that's the difference between an audience and somebody who's an influencer to an audience.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you there.
This is a perfect example because I can see Brett is very comfortable in this space. Maybe do you do podcasts? Because I'm more comfortable writing. So speaking for me obviously is a little bit more challenging. So if somebody is wanting a podcaster, not going to be me. So if you see, it's just choosing the right person for what you achieve. So yeah.
Yes, and it's very relevant with regards to what you're saying there, Bronwyn. It's 9 times out of 10, it's the first mistake that any marketeer, agency or PR agent makes, is they don't go out and actually engage with the actual influencer. And these are kinds of things that we need to bring to light in order to educate our marketing as well as agencies and PR agents out there, because they're missing the boat from the get-go. So it's wonderful. I love the points that you're bringing out. I think it's so topical, and these are the things that we absolutely need to talk about. The next, which brings me again to my next question, when it comes to influencer marketing, is what is one of the biggest misconceptions that you feel is happening right now in the influencer arena? Bronwyn, I'd like you to take lead here.
Okay, well, in the blogging world, this was quite, I just saw myself as a writer, and I would do content for people's websites, and I had a following on my website and a small nano following on my Instagram. So I would use that, to advertise or market people's brands. But I think the misconception for me was just the in the whole blogging world was I was just associated immediately with what Brett was talking about, with just people just assume you are this a macro influencer, and they don't understand, if don't have a large following, why must I hire you? They don't see your value. Like for me, for instance, they don't know that I've got partners with radio and other businesses that can benefit them. They don't know that. So it's just it's just misunderstanding of the whole industry, really, if making any sense.
And Bronwyn, yes, you are, absolutely. Everything that you're saying now has got a lot of relevance. Do you think it's the influencer's responsibility to let the person that is searching for an influencer know what they are capable of doing, or do you think that is left up? It should be a known.
I think it's both. I think it is our job. Like what you're doing now is wonderful, because we do need to educate people. I mean, it's such a new wave in South Africa. I mean, this has been going on for years in America, but it's new here. So we do have to educate as the bloggers or the podcasters. We do have to educate people of what our role is and how to benefit them. I do struggle with that myself. I'll be honest. I get frustrated. I don't myself know how to. I think people know things that they don't. So I'm learning now. Oh, they don't understand. So it's communicating. It just comes down to communication.
Yes, yes. And then your take on this, Brett. What do you think is the biggest misconception when around influencer marketing?
So I'd like to approach it from two fronts. One being from the brands and agency side. And I think the biggest misconception there is that they're not dealing with professionals, that they're dealing with amateurs. And I think one of the reasons is because that often the influencer space is dominated by a younger generation. And I think a little bit of ego gets in the way. And what happens then is they go, well, because that age, they must have got lucky, or they were being provocative, and that's why they've got this audience. Rather than really actually taking some time to get to know them, speak to them, and realize just how much hard work goes into being a great influencer. Now, you obviously also get influencers that are taking a chance, that aren't actually influencers. But when we talk about an influencer, as a professional, we're now talking about ones that actually are. We can disregard the ones that are trying and the ones that haven't got there yet. But these are people that work really hard. They spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and put a lot of strategy into building a true influence to those people. It doesn't matter if they're 16 years old. Their audience trusts them and resonates with them, and that's what the brand or agency is trying to harness. Then speak to the person and treat the person who's managed to already do that as a professional. And then the other side is the influencer themselves. And I think there's two things. One is that it's easy. It's not easy. And it's kind of the same point from two different sides. But more than anything, the misconception with influencers is that they feel like they're competing against each other. Mm-hmm. And I think as soon as they start to get over that and start to collaborate more, this is starting to happen in some spaces, and the ones that are doing it are absolutely exploding. Because if you start to look at it as collaboration, and we're building an industry and we're building credibility around this new concept, then the agencies and the brands are going to come on board more, rather than looking at it as competition. And the best way I've used this to explain to to some of the guys that I've spoken to is, if as a marketer, and I've been in marketing for years, and I've made these choices. So when you've got a piece of content or you're running a campaign, let's say it's going into print and it's for a gardening brand. I'm not going to look at just one gardening magazine. I'm going to go put it in 7 or 8, but I'm only going to put it in the top 7 or 8. So by collaborating and building an industry, you give breadth of association and breadth of choice to marketers. And now you're starting to build something that they can really use, and they can use to get a wider influence and a wider audience.
And the same goes again, as you're talking about that competition. I mean, if that was your traditional strategy back in the day, why not apply that now, especially when it comes to influencers, and collectively have a team of influencers who have different target audiences that they talk to, even, who are collaborating together and creating that strategy. It makes so much sense on what you're saying there, Brett. And I think even Bronwyn is nodding her head as you highlighting these points. The other thing that
the campaigns, as marketers, we've always wanted to get people to see the same or similar message multiple times to start to before it really starts to take note. Before it starts taking notice. So
exactly,
if you've got multiple influencers, even if they've got audience overlap, now it's like somebody, like 2 of your friends telling you, you know what, this is a great product, and then 3 of them tells you. Then you see the TVC, then you see the print, and you go, you know what, actually, I don't need any more convincing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And in marketing, that aspect of having 7 points of conversion takes place, because it's exactly that. And the more the repeat happens, the more people are converted towards the actual advertisement. Yes, Bronwyn, sorry, you were going to say something there. I cut you off.
No, no, it's okay. I actually talk a lot, and so yeah, you have to stop me. No, I was going to say 2 things that came to mind. The one was, so for myself, I'm a blogger, but I work with Coastal Radio Safe, and so sometimes we've partnered, and he'll do an interview, and then he sends me the blog. So we kind of collaborate there, and it's 2 different media, different audiences, but it's like what Brett was saying. It's just you're getting the name out, and obviously for Durban it works because it's insulated.
Community.
But the other thing I was gonna say, just stop me if I'm talking too fast, is just with this question, misconceptions. One of the other misconceptions, just topic, is that you have young people saying, "I want to be an influencer," and they're kind of aiming for this as a career choice. And I think for many of us, this happened accidentally. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one. Passionate about something, you start off just doing what you love, and then because of that, like Brett was saying, you build a trust, you build an audience that follows you, and so that's how you become an influencer. You can't just one day wake up and decide, and it's a lot of studying. I mean, even if you're not studying marketing a degree, I mean, for myself, I've done millions of tutorials. It's just a lot of work that's gone to getting you to where you are. I mean, for me, it was 14 years. And then the last 4 months, all of a sudden, I'm getting people, like you were saying, I have to actually turn people away because it's not aligning with my brand. But it's the last 4 months has actually been key, but it took about 14 years of just loving what I do. So
yeah, exactly. And that's also, it's become a learning curve for you as well, Bronwyn. But at the end of the day, it is actually the learning curve is becoming a business model. And that's what I love about this. And as you're speaking, I'm also learning, as well as Brett. I mean, Brett has got some really good insights with regards to the influencing marketing arena. And it is so important for us to start to talk about this and start to pick up on the lessons that you both have to have, that you're both sharing right now. So that's brilliant. Before we carry on, we do have an audience that is watching us right now. Thank you so much for all of your messages. We do see you. Astrid, thank you so much for mentioning us. Loving this, good info for influencers. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. We also believe that it's also good information. And just a shout out here to Darren as well, appreciating Brett is laying down the facts. And I am definitely agreeing with you 110%. And so is Bronwyn, being a new influencer on hand here as well. And thank you again to Zelda for taking part and for just sharing a comment. Very interesting. I'm sure this is going to help your business as well, Zelda. I know that you are an entrepreneur in the beauty industry. So let's get back to our discussion. Please, anybody, if you have a question, just pop it on down in the comments right now. We'd love to answer it. You've got two pro influencers here, one very affluent one and one brand new influencer who are identifying and seeing these problems that are occurring within this industry. So that brings me again to another question that I'd like to pose to both of you. And yeah, if we have a look-see is, do you think that influence marketing is a tactic that every brand or campaign should be using? Brett?
No doubt in my mind. I would go so far as to say that right now, it's the most underpriced media, and that anybody who's not looking at influencer marketing right now is just missing out on probably the biggest opportunity in marketing right now. As this industry and as this media channel grows, I think it will go beyond being just a distribution channel. And those that get on board early are the ones that are going to get the most value, and they're going to get the most value at the lowest price. If you look at the breadth of the types of influencers, there's not a market that comes to mind now, or a single brand that I can think of that couldn't use influencer marketing. They will certainly use it in their own way, and there will be nuances throughout. But to not be considering, and not just considering, I think that brands should be putting significant budget of every campaign behind influencer marketing. And I'm not talking dipping your toe in for a single blip or a little flash to try and get a campaign a little bit more excitable and putting 10%. I'm talking considerable budget. I'm talking 30, 40, 60, and in some cases, I would be putting as much as 80% of a campaign budget behind influencer marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, here, it goes into that fundamental, which we spoke about earlier, is having influencers to come in right at the development stage, that research development, that R&D stage, and then outlining the entire strategy and the plan going forward. So I absolutely agree with you. Bronwyn, your feelings, your thoughts around this?
Well, I mean, obviously I would say yes, but it is the way the future is going this way. I mean, print media is there, but it's maybe a backup, I would say. So this like video, especially even TikTok. I mean, I even registered for TikTok. I had my 14-year-old son. Oh, he'll kill me if I said 12. 14-year-old son laughing at me because I'm joining. But it's just the way. That's where the audiences are, and even to market it to the young audience, because they are your future buyers. So it's actually it's all of this is very exciting.
Yes, I also agree with that. And again, we're going back to that research and development side again, and 9 times out of 10 what I find is that the brand or even the agency that is representing a brand is not in tune with the actual targeted audience. And they miss the boat slightly because they don't know where these audiences are hanging out and which channels they are. Brett, have you come across this, and what is your suggestion with regards to this?
It's a massive problem, and I think TikTok is probably the one that's best to illustrate it. There's still this naive idea that TikTok is a place where young teen girls lip sync, and it's not. Fastest growing social media platform in the world, and to ignore that is insane, in my opinion. You've got the likes of Charli D'Amelio, who absolutely skyrocketed to stardom, and she had no idea why it was happening. Probably, in my mind, one of the nicest and most humble influencers in the world right now. And I think what happened so nicely there is that she was so genuine that when her account started exploding, I don't know exactly what it was, but I mean, she was hitting multiple millions within weeks. And she changed her bio to, I don't understand the hype either. And that humility just skyrocketed her even further. And then she was lucky to have parents with good savvy who enlisted the likes of VaynerMedia, and they managed to assist her, because with that level of stardom comes all the dark side of social media, people rocking up at her house. Absolutely. And people saying, all of that starts happening. And within a year or a year and a half, she's in a Super Bowl ad, most expensive media slot in the world. And that happened a couple of months ago. Now, if the Super Bowl ads are using TikTok social media influencers, she wasn't anything. She wasn't coming from another. She wasn't like Logan Paul or one of those that came from Vine and then readapted and was well suited to the platform. She started on TikTok. She exploded on TikTok only. She's in a Super Bowl ad, and if that's not enough for people to understand that every platform and right now specifically TikTok is not worth taking notice of, then I just don't know what more anybody would want.
I totally agree with that. And that's why it's so relevant to do that R&D from the beginning, from the get-go. All right, we've got a question here. Let's just put it up on the screen so you can all see. I'm just going to read it out for you. It's quite a biggie. Would it be more beneficial to maybe join or start your own group of influencers to work with and collaborate with, like a lot of influencers generally do? Do you think it would be more valuable to be the individual trying to bounce off and collaborate with as many other influencers as possible? And that question's from Darren. So I think in a nutshell, what he's trying to say there is it a good idea for any agency or even a marketeer to actually compile their own group of influencers and then take those influencers and collaborate with them? Your thoughts on this, Bronwyn?
I understood his question differently, but so I thought he was asking for himself as an influencer, not. But I would think that you need a bit of both, because I think you need to be able to work with collaborate, like, because he was asking about starting your own collaboration. So I think that you. I need context when answering. Yes. I didn't know who the question was from.
Not a problem. And so there's the question. Would it be more beneficial to maybe join or start your own group of influencers to work with and collaborate with, like a lot of influencers generally do? Or do you think it would be more valuable to be the individual trying to bounce off and collaborate with as many other influencers as possible? I think you are right, Bronwyn. He is meaning from an influencer point of view. He's just put in there. Sorry, I mean as an individual from an influencer point of view. You're right on the mark there, Bronwyn.
I've myself have done a bit of both. So I have joined in with other groups that are existing because I can learn from them, because in the industry for a bit longer than me. But then I've also started a little group just of that we can meet Friday, or just some of the, just help each other and bounce off things, and a little Facebook group of people that I've met, and then we just kind of bounce things off each other. So I think both are important.
Okay, and just for context,
Learn.
are all of the influencers that you meet up with, are they all in the genre of blogging, or do they have different tools and different resources that they use?
So most of the people that I've connected with are bloggers, but they do blogging differently. So there are a few that are beauty bloggers, which is really not my field, but then they do a lot of the Instagram stories, and so they use the videos on Instagram. I've met up with a couple that do podcasts. I met up with one that actually does TV, and then I told you the radio as well. So it's a bit of a mix, but mostly just bloggers for me, because obviously it's just something that I would relate more to.
Okay. Brett, your take on this with regards to getting a group of influencers together from an influencer point of view?
So I think definitely both. You want to try and collaborate with existing guys, and very importantly, within your own niche, as well as what I call cross-category collaboration.
Yeah.
So there you want to, if you're going to collaborate on a piece of content or on a project, then you need to make sure that there's an audience overlap that's going to suit both. But the more time you spend with other people that are influencers that you can learn from, if your forte is blogging and you're speaking to somebody who does a lot of video, when your time comes that you need to do a video or something suited to a video, or the brand needs both, you know who to go and speak to. I also think that there's a lot of value in lifting up the newcomers, the guys that don't quite know what's going on yet, and make sure that they're not getting exploited by agencies and by brands and by other influencers. As they grow, they will, and potentially leapfrog you. They will respect the fact that you were there for them, and they'll have your back. We've seen the likes of a Logan Paul who has gone all the way to stardom and then lost it all. And if he didn't have the network of other influencers that he had to help and slowly build him up, he would never have had a comeback. And I think that's where this level of collaboration, you never know when you're going to need it. So I think it's also when you go into those and you create those, it's with the mindset that I'm going there to help everybody else in that group and take nothing. And if you go in there like that, and everybody goes in there like that, then everybody's actually going to leave there with a lot.
Yes, because it becomes more valuable and worthwhile, because there isn't this angst or stamina, I beg your pardon, what's the word I'm looking for? The status around, I'm better than you. Or almost, that ego coming into effect. Thank you, Brett. Yes, you put it beautifully there. So I think at the end of the day, another thing and another aspect which you've brought up there beautifully, Brett, is that collaboration becomes your network. And it's that net worth that also can help you to succeed and elevate you, or and also can share with collaborative work as well, which I think is so important going forward as an influencer. So Darren, I hope that's answered your questionnaire, and thank you for posing that on the live stream. I really appreciate that. Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. Again, to our audience, if you do have any questions around influencer marketing or being an influencer, just pop your questions down below in the comment section. We promise that we will answer any questions that come up in the comment section. We're here to serve, and we're here to also enlighten and educate, as well as inspire you if you happen to be in influencer marketing, or even if you're a marketing agent, in PR, or even an agency who is looking to understand this whole big kind of wave that is happening. There is going to be a new influx of influencer marketing, and I think you both will agree with me that influence marketing is going to only start to seed itself more and more going into the future. So I'm going to pose one last question to you, and we'll take one more look on the comments to see if there are any comments that are coming through. And this is something that I believe a lot of people also tend to ask when it does come to questions around influencer marketing and the strategy thereof, is how would you identify who's the right influencer? So I have a campaign or I have a brand that I'm wanting to promote. How do I identify the correct person or the correct influencer for my campaign? I'm going to hand it over to you, Brett. Let's hear your opinion around this, please.
So there's a few ways. I think that any marketer or agency that is in tune with their audience or with their demographic should already be aware of who their top influencers are. That doesn't necessarily make them the right influencer for the campaign, but it is a good starting point. And there again, agencies and brands mustn't be scared to then say, okay, right, we want to pay you for your time. Come give us an hour of consulting. Tell us who the movers and shakers. Here's an idea of the campaign that we're looking for. This is the direction it's going to go in, or this is the objectives that we're trying to do. Even if they're not the right person, they can direct you to the right people, as well as give you an idea as to why those specific people for specific points are the right influencers. Yes, beyond that, there's more and more platforms that are coming up. They come with some challenges in some instances, but they certainly are a good start. There's Webfluential and Humans, and the likes of those platforms are starting to be able to identify influencers. On the nano side, there's Continuum. I do think there's value in looking at those. And even if you're looking at those, I would still go back to an influencer that I know, because I know my brand and I know my audience and I know my demographic, and I would still get them in. And even if I can't find somebody, then I would go to the next closest category or a lifestyle category influencer that is a lot broader, and say, right, your lifestyle, I'm looking for somebody in the bushveld photography or wildlife photography or whatever it is, and they'll be able to point you very quickly, because at the top they've stuck together. That's how they got there. They worked with each other, so they'll point you in the right direction very quickly.
Yes, very true. Bronwyn, your take on that with regards to where would they find the right influencers?
Well, Brett answered that part of it, but just a little bit deeper. So once you've got like maybe a list, I think it's just to look at authenticity is very important. And, you know, do they have a message, a niche? You know, I mean, some of us have got a broad niche. That's also good, a lifestyle kind of niche. And then, you know, just things like having, like we were talking about earlier, having that trust audience, you know, look at their engagement on their following. You can actually, if I'm talking to brands out there now, you can look at I don't know if I'm giving away secrets here, but there's a website called Siteworth Traffic, and you can actually go and type in the bloggers' website, and you can see their numbers. So those sort of things. And also just ask them for media kits and rate card. Obviously, I'm just talking for bloggers. Ask them, and then they should have a good. You should have a good idea of everything from there.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's also on the metric side, is that using sites like this quickly identifies the influencer and their following, which is also an important aspect. However, as we discussed earlier, I also don't believe it's just the amount of followers that you have. I do believe it's the amount of influence and trust that you actually have within your community. So thank you for that, Bronwyn. Thanks for sharing those secrets. I'm sure people are taking notes. All right, I'm going to just go back to the comments here. I see that we do have a few coming through. Okay. Darren is saying he absolutely loves all of the comments. Love the response. Thank you. I'm sure that we actually helped him there. Let's go to the next one. This one's from Sean. Is how do you about finding the correct influencer for your business? How do you go about finding the correct influencer for your audience? I'm sure that's what you wanted to say there, Sean. Again, Brett has shared a web I beg your pardon. What is the name again? What did you share with us? Webfluential, and the other one?
Humans. Webfluential, humans, and Continuum.
And Continuum. That's also available for you. And then Bronwyn shared hers. Share it again with us, please.
Okay, well, that's just to show that the metrics. So it was called Site Worth Traffic, just for the bloggers. There's also a group called, I think it's called South African Bloggers Network. And so bloggers and brands join on there to kind of join together. So there is quite a nice group and like a bit of unity and helping each other there. So, but you can find bloggers there as well.
Okay, fab. If I can ask both of you, once the live stream is finished, just go drop in those links in the comment section for anyone that does come across and looks at this at a later date or whatever. That'll tremendously help the community as well, if you don't mind. Okay. All right. Sure. Another question is, how do you go about finding the correct influencer for your business? I think that's Sean's question that he posed before. He just put it in a better grammar there for us to actually go through. And then Darren, as an influencer, what is the best way to approach a brand or business to work with them without being exploited? That means underpaid or not paid at all. This is one of the biggest banes that a lot of influencer experience. Let's head on over to you, Bronwyn. Add your comments here, please.
Okay, I'm still learning this as well, Darren. I don't know because I don't actually approach brands at the moment. So far, it's been people that have approached me, but so I haven't actually had to go this route yet. But I have been asked to do things for free or for exposure or for all these other reasons, and I'm so tired of that. So I don't understand either.
Because the exposure doesn't pay the bills,
I
right?
can't really help you.
One of the insights that I actually was talking about with one of my PR agents this past week is that we need to rewrite this, especially within the industry, even for eventing as well. A lot of people tend to invite you to events and then offer you a plate of food or the experience for the evening in exchange for the blog or for the coverage or whatever the case may be. And my stance is this, we need to turn this around, we need to, from the get-go, already allow a budget for paying and payment because in actual fact, you are becoming that influencer, that ambassador for that particular event. And a lot of the PR agents, as well as agency and marketeers, need to start realizing more and more that they have to put a budget aside for this type of thing to happen, especially when we are talking about an influencer who is converting an audience. Because 9 times out of 10, that conversion is not maybe immediate, but the feet that come through the door down the line or during the next couple of months has actually increased. So it's not a return on investment that happens immediately. So again, that's my views. Brett, what are your views with regards to this particular question?
So again, it's twofold. From the brands and agency side, the exploitation of quality influencers needs to stop. It's unprofessional, unacceptable, and any exploitation in whatever form it takes must not be tolerated. And it's very easy to say, oh, well, the influencer agreed to it, so therefore I'm not exploiting them. They had free choice. And we all know that that's not the case. it's nothing more than bullying, right? And I think to answer the question for Darren is the point to start from an influencer point of view is to start not looking at yourself as an individual, the influencer. You are a part of a business. You, the influencer, are a business. You need to act like a business. And one of the ways you do that is you market yourself, right? In the same way that you create influence, you need to create your own influence to your client base or potential client base. And it's never been easier to do. You start off with creating absolutely insane content. And that content is so good that it is desirable. As soon as it's desirable and it holds an audience, then you can start to attach value. Then you go to your other influencer groups and your other people, and you say to them, guys, what are people charging? What are you getting? What am I getting? This is what I'm trying. If they just drop off a big box of stuff at my house, I'll give them a story, but I won't give them anything else. And once that starts to self-standardize, then the brands and the agencies get blocked out of the network of good influencers, and all their tricks and antics don't work. And the brands, the influencers start to talk within each other, and they say, you know what, brand X, don't work with them. They're exploited, right? And then once you've got great content, you build a media kit, and you start out by sending it to everybody, and you will get 0 replies. And then you update it the next week, and you update it by saying, you know, you've got 5 more followers and you've got 3 more likes and whatever it is. And you just keep doing that, and you send it to all the brands. Then you go out and you get into the DMs. You know, you can DM literally 100 brands every single day. It depends how badly you want it. It's a game. It's a numbers game, and it's just a return on effort. So again, you'll send out 100 DMs in the first, you might get 1 reply. But as you go on, then you start to build up credibility because you get your first campaign. It doesn't have to be for free. In another webinar, we can talk about how you can position your pricing so that you can start out at the top, but you have to have a top product. So your pricing has to be fair, and then you have to have the confidence and the conviction to stand up to a brand and say, thanks, but no thanks. If all they're going to do is give you something for free, and I promise you, I've seen it so many times, the brand turns around a couple of weeks later and goes, well, you know what, actually, we still want to talk to you, and here's the price.
Yeah, it's so true. And a lot of influencers don't realize this, number one, which is so relevant that you brought up there, Brett, is that they are a business themselves. Their brand is their own brand as that influencer. So that is number one. And that's self-belief and self-conviction that you are bringing value. The other thing is, is working on that pricing module, that structure, where you have 5 income streams, and one of them has to be a free, which is it could be just doing a blog and putting that up. The rest is all monetized. And a lot of influencers don't understand that it's basic business. This is how you build any business. If you look to the Vodacoms, or the big guys, the insurance people, even as far as the banking institutions, this is the basis of how they built a business model. And it's important for influencers who are brands to know that that's exactly what you need to do. The other thing that you brought up, which is so relevant, is if you are an influencer and you agree to do something for nothing, you're adding to the fire of nowhere. And that is something that you've got to dig your heels in and say, just like Brett has explained, is, you know what, I'm not compromising anymore. And that is why I think this subject in particular has to be spoken about. It is very relevant for where we are right now. There are far too many amateurs that are out there that are not recognizing themselves as brands either, that are accepting the exposure or the product in exchange for money. And this sets a precedent across the board. and those who are wanting to be serious, who are dedicated, who are taking the time to DM, who are working on building their brands every single day, every single minute, they are the ones that are suffering because of those people that are coming forward as such. So
but they still come out on top. The ones that treat themselves, and while the others that do it wrong make it harder for the industry to progress, every single person that stops and says, right, I'm taking a stand, I have value, and I'm going to demand that value, a fair value, and I'm going to deliver a phenomenal product, and I will do it on time, on budget. Those people progress it at the same time, infinitely or exponentially more than the ones that bring it down. And that's where we see the quick divide between the ones that make it and the ones that don't.
Yes.
Well, in a nutshell, that's what happened to me, because I was doing it as a hobby, writing, and friends said to me, is this a hobby or is it a business? And so I had to take it seriously, and I developed a brand and all these things that you're talking about. And another friend of mine who's a financial advisor said to me, you must know your worth. And I think that's especially with us girls, ladies, we don't always know our worth and what we've actually got to give, and so we just settle. So no, we mustn't settle, and we must know our worth and say no to this.
Yes,
Anyway.
I agree. So this is very insightful information. I've learned quite a bit. I'm going to summarize now just very quickly. Before we go, we've got one more comment here from Darren, who says the response was so valuable. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Thanks for taking part. We really appreciate your questions that you pose to us. And yes, more and more, we need to start discussing these things. We need to start to actually highlight exactly how this model needs to be rewritten, reframed, and repackaged for the marketing going forward. So I'd love to have the both of you back on for a further chat around the rise of the new media influencer. I do believe that we've got a lot more to share. I mean, this was just touching the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So much to say.
Yeah, there is. All right, so I'm going to thank you, our audience. Thank you for popping in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions that you posed and all your positive comments down below. Bronwyn as well as Brett will come back in and just drop in those sites that they had mentioned when it comes to looking for the right influencer. And maybe you want to go and be a part of them as well, if you are an influencer, because again, it just helps to seed you. It gets your mindset ready to becoming an influencer and actually making an impact in your own community. Guys, I'm going to say thank you very much for hanging out with me this evening. Thank you, Brett.
Thank
you, Bronwyn.
It was lots of fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It wasn't so bad. Yes, it's my pleasure. I absolutely enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Very insightful. I've made notes of my own as well. And I'm going to also come back towards this. I just want to pick up on a couple of things that both of you had mentioned, which I do believe we need to make up another webinar around. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to our audience. Good night.